As long as they stayed in this room for 50 days, they could claim a $5 million prize. However, there was no internet, no TV, no cell phones, and nothing to pass the time. There was only a clock displaying the countdown and an electronic screen for communication with the organizers. The young couple spun around excitedly, happiness arriving so quickly it felt like a dream. Before they even had the money in their hands, they began planning how to use the windfall. Michael wanted to focus on his art, hiring celebrities to perform for him. Catherine, on the other hand, wanted to invest the money to make it grow even more. After finalizing their plans, they began to assess the room. Apart from the single bed and a bathroom, everything was white, giving a sense of emptiness. Feeling hungry, Michael pressed the electronic screen. Juice appeared as their dinner, with a rich nutritional composition but lacking in taste. Though it amused them initially, Michael grew bored and began scratching the walls. Just as boredom set in, the room's lights went out. The lights were scheduled to turn off at 10 every night and wake them up at 7 in the morning. Catherine woke up and pep-talked herself in front of the mirror, determined to persevere for the massive prize. Breakfast, once again, was the uninteresting nutritional juice. After taking a shower, they engaged in conversation. They talked about literature, business, and even gossip, covering almost every possible topic. When there was nothing left to say, a sense of emptiness filled the air. Catherine sat down, bored. Michael stood in front of the countdown clock, feeling time pass at an excruciatingly slow pace. He even began to suspect that the organizers deliberately slowed down time. Catherine encouraged Michael to stay upbeat.
Keep your eye on the prize. $5 million, babe.
But within just 2 days, he was already restless to the point of insomnia. The following day, when they were awakened, Michael felt mentally exhausted, but he rallied his spirits, thinking of the prize money. In comparison, Catherine remained much more composed. To pass the time, they started playing various games. Time passed in the monotony of eating, sleeping, and playing games, and 27 days had gone by. However, Michael couldn't muster even a trace of enthusiasm in these dull days. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed in the room. Michael noticed a small black dot on the otherwise pristine white floor. As he approached, he realized it was a cockroach. The sudden appearance of a third life aroused Michael's interest. The cockroach was more cute than usual. Michael started talking to the cockroach and even gave it a name. But soon, he noticed that this newfound companion was exceptionally weak. Michael quickly placed a drop of juice for the cockroach, but a prompt sounded from the speaker, reminding him that the food was for participants only. Michael tried to request to have the cockroach removed from the room. Fearing it might not survive long in there, Catherine intervened, urging Michael to stop. Pressing the button would mean Michael forfeited the game, and a warning immediately came from the speaker. Leaving the room would reduce the prize to $1 million. Michael reluctantly placed the cockroach back on the floor. A heated argument ensued between them. Michael accused Catherine of indifference towards life, and soon their exchange escalated into mutual blame. An enraged Catherine stormed off, and a crunching sound followed beneath her foot-squashed cockroach. They fell into a cold war. After a while, Michael offered to make peace. He wanted to spend $100,000 to request a meal from the organizers. A hearty meal might provide them with some motivation. However, Catherine immediately rejected the idea. She knew that items obtained through such requests were randomly given, and she didn't want to waste $100,000 on something useless. But Michael didn't wait for Catherine's approval. He immediately pressed the button on the screen. Spending $100,000, from the wall emerged a green crayon. Yet, Michael's face lit up with joy as he picked up the crayon, and he began to focus on drawing on the wall. This was his forte as an artist. Soon, the once monotonous white walls were covered in vibrant green. The lifeless room gained a touch of vitality, but Catherine couldn't fathom Michael's actions. Even after the last bit of crayon was consumed, Michael was still not satisfied. Looking at his green-stained hands, his newly ignited passion dwindled. He eventually headed to the bathroom to wash off the crayon. Catherine looked at the messy bathroom and sulked. For so many days, Catherine had maintained impeccable cleanliness. After tidying up, Catherine still found it in her to apologize to Michael. Catherine is just trying to hold on, and she doesn't think she should blame Michael. But the next morning, as Catherine entered the bathroom, something on the sink startled her. There was a pistol, which had been there at some point. It seemed the organizers wanted to test their humanity. Without hesitation, Michael kicked the gun under the bed. As they finished, the room darkened, and images appeared on the walls. A video from Michael's sister played, who had heard about her brother participating but soon started badmouthing Catherine. It was clear she didn't like her future sister-in-law. but when it came to Catherine's video, she refused to play it. Still, an elderly man's image appeared on the wall. Catherine screamed, demanding it to stop, then retreated to a corner in tears. The man was Catherine's father. During her childhood, her father had battled alcoholism, draining their savings and leaving a lasting shadow on Catherine. Her father was a nightmare in human form. Michael rushed to comfort his girlfriend. In the following days, it seemed as though a heavy illness had taken over Catherine. The disciplined Catherine didn't get out of bed for days. Days passed like this. After some time, a revitalized Catherine stared at herself in the mirror, psyching herself up once more, but she realized her confidence seemed to have faded away. So Catherine decided to try something new. Even if it costs $250,000 for a second application, Michael excitedly got up and pressed the button. They hoped for a lavish meal, but when the door swung open, a woman entered instead. Michael stared at the woman, too astonished to find his words. It was only when Catherine gave him a slightly annoyed reminder that Michael hurriedly took off his shirt to offer it to the woman. The woman named Simone claimed to be an actress, informed that she was to spend a day in this room for work, but beyond that, she knew nothing. Simone looks round the room and then she praises Michael. Catherine is a bit angry at Michael's reaction. She doesn't believe every word the woman says. The organizers are probably trying to sow discord between them and maybe even take their prize money. As Catherine speculates, the lights go down and it's time for bed. Catherine thought that maybe Simone would leave the next day, so she agreed to share a bed for the night. The next morning, when Catherine woke up, she realized Simone was gone, and a sigh of relief escaped her. It seemed her worries had been needless, but when Catherine went to the bathroom, she realized that Simone hadn't left. She was just washing up in the bathroom. Catherine couldn't help but feel anxious again. Seeing Michael and Simone laughing together only fueled Catherine's anger. In response, Catherine decided to open another mystery box. This time, they received a small vial and decided to consume its contents. After a momentary daze, Michael suddenly noticed water seeping around him. Michael is now hallucinating. He feels like he's falling into the water, and then he sees his brother, who's standing by the pool, stumbling and falling into the water, and then he sees his brother, who's standing by the pool, stumbling and falling. He desperately tried to rescue his brother but found himself immobilized. Soon, he began screaming and struggling in agony. Catherine and Simone hurriedly woke Michael from his trance, but he remained immersed in the emotions from the vivid hallucination. He was on the verge of leaving the room. Catherine rushed to stop him, reminding him that leaving would reduce the prize money to $1 million. Catherine tries to calm Michael down. It turns out that everything in the illusion was real. Michael was playing with his brother as a child, and within seconds of him leaving, his brother fell into the water. By the time he jumped in and tried to save his brother, it was too late. From that day on, this incident became a haunting shadow in Michael's heart. Now, the guilt he had been trying to evade and the longing for his brother were brought to the surface once again. When the lights went out, Michael was still in that mood and couldn't sleep. Simone, too, was awake. In the dim corner, they began to open up. Simone comforted Michael, holding his hand, which Catherine noticed. Apparently Simone had crossed the line. Michael explains that they were just talking. Simone chimed in.
Oh, do you always hold hands when you talk?
But then Michael starts talking for Simone. But this set off Catherine. Catherine and Simone got into an argument. Unable to take it anymore, Michael yells at them to stop. As Catherine gradually cooled down, she realized her sensitivity might have been excessive. The following day, Catherine woke up to find Simone gone again. After checking the bathroom, Catherine finally confirmed that Simone had indeed left this time. But before she could be happy, Catherine was devastated. Simone has left writings on the wall, accusing Michael of something he did with her last night. Michael frantically explained that those were lies, but Catherine was too overwhelmed to listen. Simone bears a striking resemblance to Michael's ex. Michael realizes that the organizers are trying to stir things up. Their argument escalated, and in a fit of rage, Catherine pushed Michael, causing his head to hit the wall and him to collapse. Michael clutched his head in disbelief. Shocked by Catherine's sudden frenzy, Michael then decided to leave and go to the doctor. Catherine panicked and brought Michael some juice to drink, trying to convince him that it was nothing serious. She was also concerned about the price reduction if he left, but Michael's mind was filled with despair. He realized Catherine cared more about the prize money than his well-being. It was then that Michael realized that it was all a conspiracy by the organizers. They have set up layers of traps to deprive them of their humanity step by step. This is not a room but a mirror reflecting their fragile and greedy nature. The only true victory was to resist the temptation of the massive prize and leave. But Catherine is still trying to keep Michael. Michael decided not to argue anymore and stumbled toward the button. To his astonishment, Catherine pulled out a gun.
You can't leave.
Michael's desperation was so great that he walked towards the door in spite of himself. Catherine fires a shot into the roof, but Michael didn't even look back and firmly pressed the button. Catherine collapsed to the floor. 16 days remained. With Michael's departure, the prize dwindled to 1 million. Every day that followed, Catherine struggled through despair, helplessness, and breakdowns. When only 2 days were left, Catherine seemed to come to a realization. Slowly, she walked towards the button and raised her hand. 1 year later, Michael bumped into Catherine outside a charity restaurant. They had both found some semblance of peace. Michael inquired if Catherine had received the prize money, and she remained silent. But on the restaurant wall behind her was a message. The restaurant was donated by an anonymous benefactor. Clearly, Catherine had persevered to the end. However, Michael had also changed his perspective. He wasn't held captive by the notion of wealth. The room welcomed a new couple, just as it had Catherine and Michael, without knowing what awaits them.
This is gonna change everything.